The car in front of us is considered scrap to us, but for the masters in Peshawar, Pakistan, it's just a minor scratch and dent. With a few taps and knocks, they can turn it into a beauty, almost like a brand new car. At this moment, the masters have dismantled the vehicle, leaving only the chassis. Their first plan is to repair the A-pillar and the roof, but it's no easy task. Due to the lack of proper tools, they can only correct the hard parts using screws and resort to hammering to shape the thinner parts of the roof panel. However, the most challenging part is repairing the front longitudinal beam. With limited resources, they cannot make significant corrections, so they gradually support it using screws. For the parts that are bent outwards, they ingeniously use a pulley to pull and reset them. Fortunately, the deformation of the left longitudinal beam is slight. After pulling it to the appropriate position, they only need to make minor corrections using a hammer. However, the right longitudinal beam, located at the point of impact, is severely deformed. Therefore, they first need to remove the shock absorber assembly before using screws to support the deformed parts. This process seems complex and is indeed extremely difficult, requiring the masters to cooperate seamlessly and perform multiple operations. Once the corrected parts are fixed with a pulley to prevent them from spreading during the correction, the process also requires heating and hammering simultaneously. However, despite several attempts, they still cannot succeed. So, the next day, they have no choice but to fix the chassis onto a makeshift frame to expedite the process. This frame serves as a rough guide for pulling and shaping the chassis. After a full day of effort, the masters finally manage to fix the front part of the car. However, due to the car's previous impact from both front and rear, the deformation of the rear part is equally severe. Therefore, they need to employ the same methods and techniques to correct the rear part. What's truly admirable is their patience. They meticulously hammer out all the creases in the metal sheets, undergoing a relentless process of trial and error. If they had a pulling machine, it would save a lot of time. Just repairing the paneling takes a day, making it look flat and even. The rear longitudinal beam still needs to be pulled back into place using a pulley, followed by correction through heating. To better correct the body line, the masters now need to draw the car's contours and then make corrections. After the rear end is sorted, they can reinstall the trunk door. However, just when they thought they could start painting after installing the trunk door, the masters point out that the deformation of the roof and A-pillar is severe and requires removal for repairs. To speed up the process, they divide the tasks. Two masters use hand tools to cut the top, while another uses a gas cutter primarily. After cutting, they remove the crossbeams of the roof, allowing them to take it out. It takes them 2 days to repair the roof completely, making it look as good as new. Next, they will weld the roof back on using oxyacetylene welding. After repeated welding and polishing, the roof seamlessly integrates with the body, as if it were always a part of it. Once the bodywork outlines are roughly shaped, they can reinstall the taillights. To save costs, they use salvaged parts here. After installing the taillights, the doors can be put back in place. When the rear door is installed and closed, you can hardly see any gaps, a testament to the skill of the panel beaters. Once all the preparations are done, they can start applying putty to uneven areas. This process smoothens out the surface, providing a good foundation for the subsequent painting work. Putty also helps conceal minor flaws and defects, making the repaired body look more aesthetically pleasing. Before installing external components, they spray a layer of epoxy primer. After the primer is sprayed, the bumper can be put back in place. However, the putty on the body still needs a careful final polish. Meanwhile, on the other side, another master starts installing the fenders. Once the fenders are in place, the rear bumper and lights are also installed. Next comes the installation of the rear windshield, completing the assembly of the rear parts. Now, only the front part of the car remains. First is the installation of the impact beam, followed by the headlights. Once the headlights are in, the bumper is mounted again. These parts are relatively easier to install. The real challenge lies in the intricate dashboard. With its dense network of wires, it's a headache to deal with. If the wiring hasn't been altered, there should be corresponding plugs. However, installing the steering wheel requires extra care. A slight mistake could damage the airbag coil. However, for this car, the presence of airbags is no longer crucial. Having a steering wheel and seats is sufficient. Once the interior components are installed, it's finally time for the critical step of installing the engine and transmission assembly. Since there's no lift on site, the masters have to push the car above a pit and then cleverly use a pulley to transport it into the engine compartment. This way, the masters can work together efficiently, and in less than a day, they successfully install all the components in the engine compartment. Next, the vehicle enters the final painting stage. Before this, the masters meticulously cover the areas that don't need painting to ensure no overspray occurs. After a week of bodywork repairs, the vehicle now shines with a new glow, as if it's been reborn.